in a way, you don't think about the fact that in our modern world, you're still at the mercy of fires, right?
And earthquakes and tornadoes, we can't
Yeah.
escape it, and it's going to get worse because humanity is not doing a very good job, unfortunately, in reducing the temperatures. So the climate change keeps on mounting and mounting and increasing, and that will cause more of these destructive fires, earthquakes, floods, you name it. And we have to develop technologies and we have to find ways to protect people, to protect, create defenses, and to attack these phenomena, to attack the fires before they expand. It shouldn't be trivial. We should expect more of these, and we need to invest more effort, energy, money, technologies, innovations in solving these problems, or at least mitigating the risk or mitigating the potential damages. And that drew us very much to the fact that there's a huge cause and it's a global issue that we have to deal with. And also because, we're a startup and there should be clear financial paths to an IPO and exit in the future. It was also a factor in the decision to go for this because we identified that the market is, unfortunately, it's endless.
Yeah.
It's every property. It could be a house, it could be a neighborhood, it could be data center, an army base, any property that is very high valued, and even if it's a medium level community neighborhood that has exposure to fire, it needs protection. We need to be there and we need to bring the FireDome to protect them.
Welcome to the Haggai podcast. Buckle up. This episode is brought to you by Cards Biz, a business card too good to give away. This episode is brought to you by Better Weight for Life, transformational weight loss aid, led by U.S. board-certified physicians, providing access to GLP-1 medications like Wegovy and Zepbound that are proven to help you lose weight and keep it off.
Hello, Gadi. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. How are you?
Good. So I'm gonna frame it ahead of time because you do hardware and deep tech. So we already had someone here and software. Well, that goes without saying, right? Like that goes without saying. But if another person who does hardware said on this podcast, another founder said, there's a special place in hell for people who do hardware, but you also do deep tech on top of that. So we're very excited to have you on board and to hear of all the reasons you're not slipping. So for people who don't know you, who's Gadi?
So again, thank you, Haggai, for having me. It's a pleasure, and looking forward to talk about all the things we see in the hardware hell. Kidding, it's incredible, it's amazing. So nice to meet everyone who's listening. I'm Gadi. I'm 39 from Rehovot. I'm married, happily married, 2 kids, 9-year-old son and 6-year-old daughter. Originally from Tel Aviv, and now the CEO and co-founder of FireDome. And we're going to talk about FireDome, I'm guessing, a bit during this session. But essentially, in one word, we're building a system that protects people, properties from wildfires, which is a huge phenomenon all over the world. We can talk about that. Also, super fascinating, a real product, physical product that saves people's lives.
So, Gadi, why entrepreneurship? From all the things that you can do in life, like why entrepreneurship for you?
Wow, I think it goes back to school, elementary school. We had a course. It was a very innovative course back then. I'm talking about late 90s of entrepreneurship in the school. Yeah. And I remember it was a very experimental kind of lesson. It was exterior to school. It wasn't in the school. And we went from places to places, learning on different initiatives that people are doing, and also a lot of tasks that involve inventing things and cool stuff that we can do, on the school level, nothing like building a rocket ship or something like that, but how can we make life better at school? And it kind of clinged the fact that we can think about a problem, and then try to find a solution and build something that solves that, and having that power in your hands, the power to change, the power to make an impact, even if it's how to make the lessons more fun or how to make the breaks more entertaining or stuff like that. And it kind of stuck. It's something that is embedded in me, I think. And I had a long career in the army. I didn't talk about the history, but I had a long career in the army, in the Israeli army, in the intelligence corps, 14 years. And when you think about the army, it's kind of the opposite maybe of entrepreneurship. It's a very fixed system, very corporate copy paste that make things work. But fortunately, in the places that I had the privilege in serving, It was totally different. It was everything but doing the same thing. It was thinking outside of the box and, trying to identify the weaker points, the soft spots, and then improving them. I can't talk a lot about the details of the specific project, but I can say in generally that most of my career, what I did is I tried to understand and learn the technologies that are enemies, and God forbid we have a lot of them around us, right? We're now kind of a war. I don't know how to define it, a limbo war with Iran, and understanding Iran's capabilities, technological capabilities that can threaten us, and how to first understand them on the highest technological level possible, and then how to find solutions to either protect our people from getting hurt by these weapons that they're developing or technologies that they're developing, or how to attack them in their weaker points. This is what I did. That was my bread and butter, and I see it like very much aligned to entrepreneurship, trying to find the pain points and solving them, and bringing and building a solution. And it was on my hands and my people, my subordinates' hands in the army. And again, that kind of thing stuck during my service. And then I said, when I finished my service in 2022, after 14 years, I was kind of thinking maybe I should go to corporate and do something like trying to learn a profession to be a product manager. That was my kind of lean toward being a product manager, or trying to go and do something from scratch, to be an entrepreneur, to continue kind of my entrepreneurship outside the army. And I'm glad that I did that. I had a very lucky.
Do you remember? Do you remember what made you decide to continue the entrepreneurial kind of mindset and path?
It was luck. It was luck. It was more chance and luck.
Good luck or bad luck? Which one?
Good luck. Than an actual choice. It wasn't like a day that I chose. It was, I had already had a job. I signed a contract. I already committed to a job in a corporate. But then I had a coffee with a guy that someone connected me. He's an interesting guy. Someone told me that he was in Unit 81, super successful, and he's now trying to build a startup in climate. And he was looking for a chemist. I have 2 degrees in chemistry in my background. And I said, yeah, let's meet for coffee. Let's just chat. Although I'm about to start at a specific place in about 2 months, I had time. I was resting from my 14 years in the army. And then the coffee turned out to be like a 3-hour conversation where we thought about, he talked to me. I didn't know the problem. It was methane gas emissions. Methane gas is one of the, like after CO2, the most problematic gas that causes the global warming that we're all, seeing here on Earth. And the conversation was amazing. It was like...
Well, wait, what was amazing about the conversation?
So a few things. First of all, Guy Meitar, obviously a dear friend from Sense. Amazing guy, super technological, super leader. He had a very clear vision on what he wants to do, what kind of impact he wants to do. He didn't have the details yet. That's why we met, tried to find a solution or find a technological solution that can do that difference. But he was talking to me about let's reduce the methane gas percentage by 50%, like some numbers that are crazy. So it kind of, it was contagious in a good way in his vision. It was very appealing for me. First, and I think the basic things is choose your partners and choose the people you're working with. And he kind of, we clicked from that meeting in the coffee place. The second thing, which was, it's kind of a continuation of my service, and the fact that making an impact is important for me. Doing things that actually make a change and make life better for everyone here is substantial. So when I did defense, when I was in the army, it was clear, right? We're doing things that protect our families, people of Israel, and other places in the world as well. And doing the transition to climate was very much clear, because if we can reduce the percentage or the concentration of methane gas, then the temperatures will be lower, then everyone will have, the global warming will be less severe, which is incredible, right? So I think these were the 2 main pillars in the compensation. First, the person himself, Meitar, and second, the concept and the idea and the potential impact that kind of made this decision easy for me to go and start the company with him, and to eventually not go to the corporate, to the company. And that kind of started a journey of about, I think, about 6 months, 4 to 6 months of very deep ideation that we did together, learning about the problem, learning about the gas itself, the molecule itself. The methane gas molecule is very, very stable. So it takes a lot of energy to decompose it. And that's what I wanted to do. Wanted to break it apart so it doesn't, as methane, but as other gases that are not harmful to the environment. So understanding the chemistry, understanding the problem on a macro scale, understanding the economics of how can we sell this as a service, as a capex, as a device that kind of decomposes. Who are our customers? That is the key question when you build a startup. What is their pain points? And that was also super fascinating for me to dive into. I was the CTO, he was the CEO, but actually I did a lot of other things which were super interesting, mainly talking with potential customers, doing the product aspects, product management. So small company, everybody does everything, and also working on the solution, developing the solution, doing experiments, hiring the first employees, and it was a very, very, very intense journey. However, it was quite short. It was kind of about a year. We started the end of 2022, and then the war started in October, and everyone stopped doing everything, as you know. And we kind of essentially our concept was to start with farms with cow sheds, because cows emit a lot of methane from their burps. And it's kind of what happens is if you have a closed shed, then the gas goes up. What we wanted to do is to install a device that kind of takes the air from the cow shed itself, and then inside the device, there's a component, a catalyst, more specifically a photocatalyst that is catalyzed by light that decomposes the methane molecules. And then what comes out of that device is not methane. It's a different gas that is harmless. That was the idea. We traveled all across Europe trying to find closed cow sheds, walked inside cow sheds. We saw a lot of disturbing things that happen in cow sheds. But it was an adventure. It was an adventure because we spoke with the farmers, and always the conversation was like, then the farmers were like, yeah, what do you want? You're going to waste our time. But at the end, you see even their body language change. Like, wow, that's fascinating. We explained
but why do they care? Why did they care?
Because they can make money out of carbon credits.
Because the carbon credits.
Exactly. In countries like, again, back then, now carbon credits are kind of a crisis. A lot of things are happening. Only yesterday or a couple of days ago, I heard that Microsoft paused all their carbon credit transactions. So, and Microsoft were one of the leaders of this venture. Anyway, what we told them is you can put the system there, and then the credits that you will make, and we can prove that we kind of, decomposed X liters of methane per day.
Yeah.
When you take a full year, X liters of methane per year, and then you can use it to buy carbon credits or methane credits. And it made sense to them. And for them, it doesn't cause any disturbance. Even better, it kind of improves the airflow inside the cow sheds. So the cows, the thing they care about is how to make more milk, in less time and be more efficient. And we showed them that the air ventilation that we installed there inside the cow sheds improves the cows' well-beings. Hence, the milk produce will be better, even though it wasn't the main reason. It was kind of a side benefit. But the main thing was the carbon credits, and then we will split the money that comes from selling the credits. I think looking back, it was an amazing adventure. We could have done some things differently. I can give some examples. For example,
I would love to hear that. Just one question. So, just for my understanding, did the technology actually work?
So we did develop a catalyst that improved dramatically the efficacy of the decomposition of methane, but it was a lab scale product, and we didn't do the next step, which is the more complex step, usually to make it a full system that we can take and plug in and install in a cow shed. We did tens of thousands of experiments during that 6 months that after we raised the money, but unfortunately, kind of everything stopped.
So what you were starting to say about your takeaways, like the things you learned?
Yeah. So then I was the CTO, and I am the CEO. Totally different position. I think two things that we learned, and I'm now kind of implementing from what we learned. One is that there has to be a clear definition of what the CTO does and the CEO does. In Carbon Twist, although I was the CTO, I also did the product, which is kind of conflicting, right? Because the product defines the technology pretty much like the boundaries of what to develop and what the customer wants and needs. And it kind of created, I'm not saying it's a conflict of interest because I'm the same man, but it's kind of, it always was a debate. And it's hard to challenge myself all the time on that. And on the other hand, we didn't do, like the CEO was too much into the technology because he's a tech savvy, and is an amazing engineer and physicist. And we didn't do enough conversations with potential customers. And we didn't do enough conversations with organizations that can buy the carbon credits. We didn't enough. We had much more focus on the technology. And I think now what we're doing, Adi, she's my dear co-founder, friend, and CTO of FireDome. We are more clear on that. Obviously, because both of us are founders, there are decisions that we take together on the founder level, where to take the company in the next few years, and which investors do we want to meet with and try to raise from, and like very strategic decisions. But below that, there's a clear partition in roles. I am the sales person of the company. We don't have any salespeople because we're early stage.
You're right. We're looking at him. We're looking at him.
Me and we have Dafna, our COO, for over a year. She's also joined that effort. But we're talking.
I always allow me to make a joke. I say when you're starting, each founder is 3 people because it's me, myself, and I.
Exactly. It could be more than 3, depending on how crazy you are. Talking to customers, I mean, I've spoken with, even before we started raising, we spoke with dozens of customers.
So maybe it's actually a good time. Let's start from the beginning, right? Before we start jamming into the videos. So you had this experience, you closed the company. Actually, but if you don't mind saying, how did you feel? Like, what was the emotional impact of having to close?
Yeah. So it was a very tough period of time because we had the war, super powerful. Everyone was impacted. I had reserves duty. I had to juggle between the startup that was kind of, it was very clear that we're going to close the startup because of the war itself, and the situation at my house, and my children, my wife, and try to juggle everything. It was a crisis. It was a few weeks. Once we decided to close, it was a few weeks of a crisis for me, and I was kind of thinking, what am I going to do now? Am I going to go back to a more corporate environment? Am I going to go and try to do another venture in the startup? And I was like, at a point, I had 2 very important conversations, one with my wife and one with a very dear friend of mine from the army. And they both were like, just, accept the situation, talk to as many people as you can, and then the solution will come. Something will happen that will, help you make the decision and go for a specific path.
Which is basically the formula of generating luck. Like when you steer things, you talk to people and you steer things.
And you increase the probability that you'll meet someone interesting, or someone that has an interesting offer, or someone that has an interesting idea, and then go with him and continue in the path. And it worked. I had 2 very bad weeks, crisis, as I told you. And then, once we did these conversations, kind of everything rebooted, and I did a journey, and luckily it was a very brief journey because I met I think it was 2-3 weeks after those conversations at a climate tech entrepreneurship conference called Epsilon. Uriel Klar has been leading that venture for the last few years, and they're now having, I think, his 4th or 5th cohort, where he's bringing founders together in the climate space to companies, matchmaking. And that's what he did with me and Adi. He saw both of us at that conference. I was in uniform. I was still in reserves duty back then. It was January 24. And he said, D, you were in Unit 81 in the Army. Gadi, you were in Unit 81. Speak.
You should talk.
You should talk. And that changed our lives, both Adi and my life, that conversation. And actually in that conference, the main topic was the wildfire crisis. There was
really serendipity.
Exactly. It was like cosmic.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was cosmic. And I will add another component to that serendipity that you mentioned, is that The speaker in that conference, Sean Abramson, who spoke about the wildfires crisis, he lives in Los Angeles. He's an investor in climate tech companies. And he talked about that and how important it is to start new companies that will tackle what we call in climate adaptation. Maybe I'll just zoom out a bit on adaptation and mitigation in the climate space. So essentially, climate tech is divided to mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation is all the methods and technologies that are intended to reduce the concentration of the greenhouse gases such as methane and CO2, kind of like what I did in carbon waste. And adaptation is understanding that we can reduce the carbon percentage, the carbon footprint and percentage. However, there are phenomena and natural disasters that are already happening, such as floods, quakes, wildfires, and we should develop technologies that can help humanity and communities protect themselves from those disasters. And back to the story, at that point, it was 2 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago, adaptation didn't get as much attention as mitigation, funding wise, and even in the newspaper, it wasn't the main things that people talked about. And Sean told us, or told to the crowd, we had to do more adaptation. And kind of everything clicked. The fact that we met and we had a great chemistry between us at DNI. Two was the huge problem that Sean mentioned, and that year 2023 was a very bad year all over the world in the terms of wildfire. We had the fires in Hawaii, Lahaina, the fires in Greece and in Canada had its worst year in 2023. So the problem was very much on fire, and it was burning. And the fact that there are not a lot of solutions, not a lot of technologies to deal with that, it's kind of said opportunity here. Take this in both hands and go for it. And that's how we started. We started exploring, we started researching, we started talking with people mainly from the US, dozens of firefighters and people who lost their homes and businesses and insurance companies, which are a very important factor in this crisis. I'm talking about over 100 conversations during a very brief period of time, about 2-3 months. We actually documented all these conversations. So when we went to do fundraising, we had
before that, I think we're missing a step, because we set the magical moment and then we're jumping to a lot of work. But maybe it's obvious thing, but how did you even make the initial decision? Oh my God, this is a magical moment. Let's start doing all this hard work.
So great question. I think at that point of time, after we met for the first time at DNI, both of us had a few options on kind of juggling between a few options. Thinking about maybe going to a more corporate environment, maybe going back to a semi-military entity. And Adi was thinking about different initiatives with different universities and such. She knew that she wanted to be an entrepreneur and wanted to do a startup after 10 years in SolarEdge. And I was kind of thinking about a lot of different scenarios. I didn't make a decision. But then we met for the second time. And then we saw that between the meetings, we talk all the time, WhatsApp and emails. And we opened the folder where we poured all the materials. We did a lot of things in parallel, but both of us were kind of drawn like a magnet to the topic. We saw the data, we saw the destruction, we saw the fact that it's all over the world, and we saw
and just so people know, this is before the Pasadena fires. This is before it was obvious to the normal person, right? I don't know, maybe people, specialist people, I think. So what did you see there that maybe you didn't see before, or maybe the normal person did not see at the time?
So I think when we started educating ourselves and looking online mainly, and start having some conversations with people mainly in Israel, because it was really the beginning of the ideation, we understood that the phenomenon is getting worse. When you look at the last 10, 20, 30 years, you see a clear trend of more fires and more devastating fires. Not only that there are more fires all over the year, and not in a specific month or 2 or 3. It's all over the year. It happens all the time. And each fire is more destructive because of global warming. And there are a lot of researchers that tie the global warming to the fire occurrence and the fire severity. That's one. Two, we read the stories. I mean, people who survived fires, who were evacuated, it's a very emotional thing. It's not only that they lose their house. The house we can replace, we can rebuild. This is, for example, people who lost vineyards or wineries that they had, and they had 5, 6, 10 generations before them running the business, and suddenly one fire destroyed everything. A campsite that was burned in 2018, there was a huge fire, the Woolsey fire in Malibu, a Jewish campsite that every year thousands of kids would come to that campsite for the summer, learning about, the Jewish holidays and about the Torah and about what's happening in Israel. And suddenly they couldn't do it. Thousands of children every year couldn't make it to the summer camp because it was completely destroyed in one fire in a few days. I mean, this is something that very much bonded both Adi and I to that cause. The fact that it's beyond the structures and beyond the financials and the economics. I think that was very interesting for us to learn and to see the stories. And I think
it's a way, and again, maybe for you it's obvious. Again, I can tell you somebody who, of course, following your guys' journey, and like we said offline, I got a glimpse of an initial idea in our living room,
early stage.
very very early stage in the presentation. But it's like in a way you don't think about the fact that in our modern world, right, you're still at the mercy of fires, right? You're still at the mercy of fires, yeah,
and earthquakes and tornadoes and
yeah.
It's we can't escape it. We can't escape it, and it's going to get worse because humanity is not doing a very good job, unfortunately, in reducing the temperatures. So the climate change keeps on mounting and mounting and increasing, and that will cause more of these destructive fires, earthquakes, floods, you name it, tornadoes. And we have to develop technologies, and we have to find ways to protect people, to protect and create defenses, and to attack. And to attack these phenomena, to attack the fires before they expand, right? So I think, that maybe it shouldn't be trivial. We should expect more of these, and we need to invest more effort, energy, money, technologies, innovations in solving these problems, or at least mitigating the risk or mitigating the damage, the potential damages. And that drew us very much. The fact that there's a huge cause. And it's a global issue that we have to deal with. And also because, we're a startup and there should be a clear financial path to an IPO and exit in the future. It was also a factor in the decision to go for this, because we identified that the market is basically, unfortunately, it's endless.
Yeah.
It's every property. It could be a house, it could be a neighborhood, it could be
logistics center,
a data center, an army base, any property that is very high valued, or not even high. I mean, even if it's a medium level community neighborhood, right, that has exposure to fire, it needs protection, and we need to be there, and we need to bring the FireDome to protect them. So that kind of was the third component of that that decision, and above all, I think the relationship between Adi and I, and the fact that we clicked and we had the chemistry from day one.
And by the way, it was and it was very evident, even when you were with the initial presentation, it was very clear you guys are clicking. And I think it was really early on when we met about this.
It was a few weeks after we met.
Really. So it was very clear that you guys were clicking. So I want to go back now to where kind of took you back again. So like walk us through this whole, discovery process. Client conversations you were having. How did you decide who to talk to? Who did you talk to? What did you learn as you were doing that?
So after we did the research, and obviously the research continued all the way in parallel to the conversations, we understood and we mapped the different stakeholders in the fire tech ecosystem, or wildfire ecosystem. So obviously the firefighters, they are the spearhead. They're the professionals. We knew that we had to do a lot of conversations with a lot of different firefighters and fire chiefs. Luckily, a lot of them have LinkedIn, which was the most effective tool that we used during that discovery process. But we didn't have any connections. I mean, we got connected to Gadi Simchi, the former head of firefighting here in Israel. So we met him, and this got one of the first conversations also. We met a few people from Israel, from Kakal, from other places, but we understood very fast that we need to speak with where the main pain point is, which is California. Which is the west side of the US. Actually, I think the first or second conversation we had was with, he's not a competitor, he's more of a partner. It's a company that does mapping of vegetation using AI, and that kind of helps the Forest Service and other organizations to plan out where they do the reductions of vegetation or the thinning of vegetation. So I met the CTO. The CTO was my commander in the army, and he told me the first thing they told me is that you have to know that you will have to move to the US to be the CEO. After to be in the US, that's where your business is. That's where your customers are. You have to go there. It was the first meeting. So just kind of a shock, but it kind of directed us very, very clearly to which market we should explore first. And I think the other advantage in California, it's an advantage and disadvantage, is that it's the top of the pyramid. And if you make it there, you can make it everywhere, but it's harder to make it there because of regulation, because of the red tape and stuff and the bureaucracy. But then we made that decision from the get-go. And then we started mapping out the different ecosystem, the different stakeholders. So first with the firefighters, the chiefs. Second, we understood from the research that we did that there's entities in California, organizations, nonprofits, that are called fire safe councils. They are located within counties. They're responsible for on the county level. Their main role is to educate, mainly to educate the communities and the business owners on the risks of fire and how can they mitigate the risk, which tools exist, which technologies exist, and also how do you evacuate if there's a fire, which paths you should drive through to get safely. So we connected with some of them, again, in California, because this is a function that is very, very, very active. I think there are 200 or 300 fire safe councils all over California, and there's starting to be more in other states as well, Colorado and Texas. But we focused on California, and we spoke with several of them. Actually, one of them is on our board now from the beginning, the CEO of the Santa Clara County Fire Safe Council, Seth. Yeah. And understanding the fact that via these councils, we can meet the communities. And later on, once we have the system, maybe they can help us distribute the technology or introduce us to the key people in the community, in the county. That was another factor that that was kind of important for us when we spoke with them. So this is the second kind of type of people that we spoke with. We spoke with insurance companies because we understood that a lot of areas in California are either uninsured at all because the risk is super, super high, or that the premiums are very, very expensive.
Very high.
We're hundreds of percent per year increase in premiums only for wildfire insurance, that normally doesn't cover everything you have, right? If you have a vineyard,
it's a specialty insurance. Like you have to pay specifically for that.
Super special, super expensive, if any. So insurance companies and carriers, we understood it's very interesting to talk with them. We also understood right from the get-go that it's a very slow and conservative industry. So it's not something that we should put a lot of energy on at the first phase of the company, but actually it's a long-term kind of effort.
It's a long play.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the insurance. And finally, and I think the most important audience was the customers or the people who suffered or are.
And we have to say, we still have not talked about what's the solution and what you guys actually do.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get.
So I think we need to get to that. But but maybe just a moment before that, who pays? Because a lot of the struggle that people have when they have this like kind of solution is like, around almost public good solutions, is that like clearly there's a pain, clearly people need it, but not always there's somebody who pays. So do you know who pays? Like, what was your validation process to get to know who's the actually paying customer for you?
So that's a great question. And I think we evolved our way of thinking about that from the beginning until recently, where we feel comfortable with the model, and I will talk about it in a second. But we started with thinking about who are our customers. Obviously, it's the firefighters, fire chiefs, right? They're responsible for protecting communities. They're responsible for fighting the fires and saving people's lives and property. So we need to sell to them. But very fast, we also realized after speaking with I think 3-4 entrepreneurs in the ecosystem, is that it's very, very, very slow. The sales cycle with the emergency services in the US.
And also as we learned in the Pasadena fires, they're under budgeted. They don't even have money.
And so it depends. Some of them have more, some of them have less. It's not a kind of
clear cut. Okay.
Actually, but we understood that we should take a different approach. We should really talk with them, but we need to convince them that our solution is good and that the methodology is something that they haven't heard of and they didn't hear about that. They all were flabbergasted when they saw what we're doing. Some of them started off saying we're crazy, but at the end, they always understood what we're.
Well, you are crazy, but in a good way.
We're crazy in a good way. We're thinking outside of the very, very far from the box. One fire chief
The
said
box
that.
is not even on the table.
The box is not here at all. It's the other side of the world. But when we showed them in these conversations that we understand the problem, again, we're not firefighters. We learned, we spoke with them, but we showed them that we first respect their opinion and want to hear what they say. These are the easiest conversations, by the way, the discovery conversations. You just ask questions, you interview them. It's not a selling. It's not a sales meeting, which is more complicated, obviously. And when you show them the respect and you show them that you know the business, you get very, very, very insightful, very, very good insights, priceless insights. And so we understood that they are not our customers, but we should bring them in as champions, as advocates when we go to the customers. And then the customers should be the landowners, the business owners, the people who live in the community. The HOA in the US, they have a homeowner association. It's kind of the board that kind of manages the community. These are the customers. These are the people who would want to pay or need to pay or are really willing to pay to protect themselves and protect their families and protect their properties. They understand that it's not a matter of if there's a fire, it's a matter of when it will happen. And it's not a matter of insurance. Having insurance is not enough because you might not have insurance at all because the carriers won't insure you. 2, it's super, super expensive and it covers a fraction of what you need. And 3, it doesn't cover the emotional factor. And a lot of the people told us, again, even before we started pitching, they told us, we want a real solution, the back of our yard, the back of the house or whatever, or business, that really can protect us. An insurance premium cannot protect us. It can say that.
Because even if I get all the money back, I want my house, I want my factory, I want my community to be there, right? And so.
I'll give you an example. When you lose a ski site, one that's an interesting story. One insurance carrier from Colorado told us a story about a ski site, obviously a lot of ski sites in Colorado, that had a fire that burned the cables of the gondolas. Yeah. And these cables that are imported, especially from Germany, and it takes about 1.5 years to manufacture them. So not only did they lose the set that they had there of the cables and the gondolas,
they lost a season.
They had to wait. They lost 2 seasons, a year until got the cables, installed them, and went back to operation. And the insurance companies didn't compensate them on that lost time. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer for $1 billion worth of ski site to have a system. FireDome.
So I think we tease people enough. We need to tell them what the hell you guys do, right? Yeah. What do you do?
Okay, so FireDome is a technology, hardware and software, deep tech, as you said, Haggai, in the beginning. Essentially, think of it as a robot, totally autonomous, without any human in the loop, only if needed, that can protect properties from wildfires. And now I'll double click on everything I said. So first, the technology, the main component is a launcher. It's a launcher, electromechanical launcher without any explosives that launches capsules of about 10 gallons, about 40 kilograms of liquid inside these capsules to a distance of up to 300 meters or 1,000 feet. 360. It does a full 360. And this is the device that creates multiple protection layers around the property. The first protection layer is a peripheral fire break. Fire break is something we learned from the firefighters, from the fire chiefs. It's how they deploy material, the fire retardant material on the ground to make sure that the fire is channeled to a location where it's easier to suppress it. You see the red stuff coming out of airplanes, that's creation of fire breaks. So we do that, but we do that site-specific, property-specific, all around it. We launch a capsule, it opens up, the material falls on the ground. We launch another and another and another to create that circle around the property. We do that only if we identify, again, autonomously, that a fire starts approaching from the forest or from the wildland towards the property that we're protecting. The unit is stationary, it doesn't move. It does the full 360, but it doesn't move. So this is first thing, this fire break actually prevents the fire front from penetrating and destroying the property. That's one. The second thing that we do, using the same device, the same capsules, we launch them not at the periphery, but above the structures. We launch a capsule, it opens up above a structure, and then the structure, the roof and the walls is covered by the same fire retardant. That prevents embers that fly in the wind from miles away to start new fires and destroy the structures. Now, these embers are key because we saw in the Palisades fire last year, about 85% of the structures were destroyed because of these embers, or what we call ember showers, because they usually come in dozens and hundreds of pieces of these embers, and not from the fire front itself, from the raging tall fire that comes from the wildland. That's huge. And when we can cover these structures and assets with the retardant, we prevent a lot of this destruction from even happening in the first place. So that's a second layer that we do. It's also preventive. It happens before the fire arrives. The third layer is a more reactive online detection and protection. We have eyes cameras that we install at the customer's site that look towards the interior of the property and look for fires, new fires that start because of embers that do start. New fires because they didn't land on the roof where we had the material and then they evaporated. They landed on a piece of grass, vegetation, bush, or whatever, start a new fire. We detect these fires within seconds, and then we launch a capsule using the same launcher, just with water, to suppress the fire, again, within seconds. These three layers, complementary, create the protection that we are, the FireDome that we have. So we have, the hardware is pretty evident. It's a launcher and the filling of the capsules with the liquids, all autonomous. And obviously there's a layer of AI software that is the brain of the launcher that kind of makes the decision on when to act and how to adjust the launching with the wind, because wind is a huge factor in these fires. We didn't mention that, but 75% of the destruction that was caused by fires in the last 20 years in California was caused by high wind-driven fires, meaning over 30 miles per hour of wind, which is crazy. It's very fast, but that's the fact. And then that's why most of the destructions happens in these fires because of the wind. So we can adjust with the wind. We have sensors, anemometers, wind sensors on site in a few locations. And then we have a clear reading of a 24/7 of what is the wind conditions, the direction of the wind, and the speed of the wind throughout the property. And we can adjust the ballistic path of the launcher with these conditions and get to the accurate locations where we want to bring the liquids to. So that's kind of it. Another thing that we developed, which is not the technology itself, it's kind of it's a way of thinking or a way of selling it, is that we provide a service. We do not sell the technology. We provide a service. The core of the service is that technology that I just described. But because it's a service, it's a holistic service. It's an A to Z service that we provide for the customer for wildfire resilience. We also include other solutions, other tools in this toolbox. One of them is detection 24/7, meaning we don't only detect the fires when there's a wildfire raging out there in the forest. We do that all year long. Let's say you went to a vacation and you had a kitchen fire, you had an accident in the house, electricity wire kind of, something happened, you had an accident, you had a fire. We are the first ones who will identify and detect the fire.
But what do? You shoot through the window?
We're not, at least not this product, maybe later on.
Maybe later.
We send the signal to the local fire department because we're
but you have a detection system. It's an alarm. It's not an action.
Okay. Firefighters can get there much faster and prevent at least some of the damage. That's one example. The second thing is, for example, we do vegetation management. We trim some of the vegetation in the property to complement the effectiveness of our launcher. If there's a bush that is very dry and very wildfire prone, we know we have to cut it. So we do that for the customer.
That's a lot, but that's a lot.
It's not that much. It's not.
Look, because what I heard. Okay. First of all, like hardware we talked about, software we talked about, logistics, making sure that the capsule's on, make sure that water's there, and you provide gardening services on top of everything.
It's a minor gardening services, but yeah, it's crucial. It's very important to understand.
But does the land, they have to approve it, or you do that like?
No, they have to approve it. If they don't want it, we don't do that. But we offer that as a service. I think another kind of motivation for us is that when we sell the service, we kind of sell a platform of services, right? The launcher is the key component. These other kind of ancillary tools is our other component, but because it's a platform, we can add a lot of tools as we move forward. I'll give an example. we have an app that we provide the customer. So we can see how the system is working, when does he have to do the maintenance and such, if there are any detection done for fires in his property. And because it's an app, we can do a lot of add-ons in the future. Let's say we want to add something that will show him the footage of the cameras that we have on site. We can charge more for that. Let's say we want to extract a report for the insurance companies. Insurance companies, it's very important for them to have transparency for the customers. They want to see what the customer is doing on his property to mitigate the risk so that they can keep insuring him at the specific price that they set. Having the ability to click a button and then having this information sent in a very neat and orderly report to the insurance carrier once a year, that's a huge thing. People pay thousands and tens of thousands of dollars for that now. And we can provide that because we're there. We have the sensors, we have the data, we collect it 24/7, and we have the relationship with the insurance company. So this is also the frame that we kind of go with.
So I want to, again, to people understand, you're basically selling a firefighting Voltron robot. Okay. First and foremost, right? I don't know if you have a name for it already, but it's like that.
We call it the FireDome. We don't have a name.
The FireDome. Okay. No, but the robot itself, it's like, okay.
Maybe later. If you have any ideas,
I called it Voltron because that's what I grew up in as a kid.
Oh,
right? Voltron, the robot Voltron, right? Probably copyrighted, can't use that. But it's like, okay, so that's a bit mind-boggling. I have to say, okay, two questions. One is kind of going back to think, who would pay for this? Okay, who is the customer? Like as you see it right now, who's actually the paying customer? Not who's not. We talked a lot about who's not, but who's the actual paying customer? And the second thing is like, where are you in the development of the technology and even the market penetration, if any?
Awesome. So the customers, and we have the first ones, the early adopters. We have one winery owner that's a customer in California, in Napa. One resort owner. Two of them, their neighbors across the street. They weren't burned, but they had fires in 2017, 2020, and I think also 2024.
So they got the message, right?
Right. They have a lot of fires. They have a lot to lose. Tens of millions of dollars plus worth value of the properties. The third one is that Jewish campsite that I mentioned in Malibu, and they are the pay customers. They will pay for our service. They want tools on their property to protect themselves from these devastating fires, and they know, again, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They want to be prepared. They want to have the power in their own hands. And by the way, again, this message came from the people that we spoke with that either lost their homes, lost their businesses, or had the fires get very, very close to destroying their homes or businesses. A lot of conversations we had after the Palisades fires, after January, and with people who evacuated, who lost their homes, their entire lives got 180 degrees shifted. And all of them said that they want something else. They want to have real tools. They can't rely on the government. They can't rely solely on the firefighters, although they're doing an amazing job. But they can't. The problem, the fires, they're too hard. They're too complicated. The wind factor, and the fact that it's hotter and it happens a lot, and there's not enough water, and all of this makes them kind of decide to pay for this kind of services. And there are solutions that are sold now. A lot of people buy external sprinklers. These are sprinklers like you have inside your house, but it's the periphery of the house. It sprays water or foam on the walls and on the roof. When it senses a fire that is kind of approaching, they sell a lot. It's not cheap, but it's something that kind of people do because they don't have any other choice. So people are acting. And HOAs are potential customers as a representative of a community or neighborhood. Utility companies, later on, government, DOD, Homeland Security, logistics, you mentioned, logistics centers, data centers, any company, any business.
Who get the most, I mean, in all the conversations you had so far, who's getting the most excited? Who's actually trying to push money in your hand to get this now?
All of the above. All of them. Okay. But they do want, I mean, there's kind of a barrier that we have to cross, which is showing the system in California, in the US. I mean, we're the system is here in Mikveh Israel, in Holon, operational, working. We did demonstrations, we did tons of testing, but they want to see it in their own eyes. It
in
didn't.
The backyard. Yeah.
Exactly. It didn't prevent them from, like the first customers, from signing the contracts and engaging with us. But I'm guessing that once we do that, the funnel will, increase exponentially.
So like you alluded to something that's working. So what have you developed? Like to what extent is it working? Where are you in your kind of on the tech side?
Yeah, so we're right in the kind of the final stage of integration between the hardware and the software. We have the launcher launching as we speak right now, working.
Duck. Everybody should duck.
Yeah, it opens up about it's midair. You don't have to. You'll get a shower at most. So the launcher is working. It's launching. The hardware piece is over, and we have the software which we developed in parallel, the AI algorithm and decision making and the detection and everything. And now we're bringing them together. We're combining them to get a fully autonomous system that will be then copied to manufacturing. I mean, that's the next step. Once we make it to the US and to the demonstrations, we are developing what we call the manufacturing documents. Up till now, it was R&D. We developed it. We had a lot of patches along the way. We want to clear these patches out, prepare the system, and do the adjustments to manufacturing, and then work with a contract manufacturer in the US that will manufacture these first units, hopefully by the end of this year, if not the early next year. And then installations and operation and build the operational arm of the company in the US. I'm also moving to California, relocating to California to enable that. And yeah, it's going to be a fun year for us.
Exciting year, no? Very exciting.
Super, super exciting, super interesting. A lot of new challenges. Taking this to manufacturing, it's not trivial. We did find a very, very competent, very strong contract manufacturer in California that will help us do that. But again, for sure, we'll have the roller coaster continuing throughout this process as well. And also the demonstrations in the US. It's also a key events. The testing and bringing people in to see it. It's huge. It's a lot of work, but it's very, very important. It's the next step for us.
And help me ask this question. I mean, you understand what I'm trying to ask. So a unit, what's the firepower it can fight against? Like, I'm sure it's not like if you're in the middle of a humongous firestorm, and I don't have the words to describe this. I'm sure there's like a limit, but like how much fire pressure, how much fire attack can a unit do?
So let's start with some data on the unit itself. The unit itself has an inventory of 3,000 capsules, each of them 10 gallons. So a total of 30,000 gallons of liquids on site. Next to the footprint of the entire components that I meant, the launcher and the water tank and everything, it's about 15 meters by 15 meters, 1.5 by 1.5. 13 by 13. It really depends on the property and the area that we have to install. Some of the customers already have a water reservoir on site, water tank or a pool or something that we can tap into if they want. If not, then we bring in our own water source. And we launch these capsules, these 10-gallon capsules, every 5 seconds. So we can launch 120 gallons per minute. That's kind of the unit that the fire chiefs use. GPMs, and it's intended to, you spoke about the fire, like the severity of the fire that we can withstand. So first we have the advantage that we start creating the protective layers even before the fire arrives. So we can control, for example, the width of the fire break. This is the key factor because it's calculated, the width that we have to do is calculated by the height of the flames, the potential flames that will encounter that fire break. Once the fire gets there, once the firefront gets there. So let's say, for example, you have 5 meters of height of flame. You have to have a 15 meter, not 15, sorry, 7.5 meter wide fire breaks. But we know that in advance pretty much because we know what type of vegetation we have in the surrounding of the property, right? So we can deduct what will be the potential height flame, and then deduct the width of the barrier or the fire break. Now, I'm not saying that we can handle all the destructive fires. If we have a fire surrounding the property 360, 20 meters.
Even the tank has its limits, right? Even the tank has its limits, right?
And we can, no solution in the fire tech space can promise 100% that it will work and no damage will happen. Some damage will happen. Nothing is bulletproof, and I think that we have to be also very modest, right? And understand our weaknesses. A, so we can improve them as we go, and B, is so we can be honest with the customers and with the ecosystem. So I think, that's kind of ember showers. This is something that we are very much planned to work against and to protect against. So that's something that is, for us, it's more important because they cause most of the damage. So our focus is on that, how to do the fast detection and suppression, how to prioritize in a very sophisticated way the targets that we encounter on the property. And we can talk about it for 3 hours, but I'm not sure we have the time. But yeah, that's kind of.
But again, do you have? And again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's just like so. Again, I totally understand that there's a difference that if you're in, I know, the heart of a fire or like your main danger is ember, but it's like, and it's clear that this would be better than whatever was demonstration. But how do you think it's like gives us 30% chance better, 50% chance better? Like, what scope are we talking about?
So we're aiming for the very, very high percentages, 80-90% better.
Yeah.
No guarantee is very hard to guarantee.
Yeah, like full disclaimer, legal disclaimers, like all those things. Do not try this at home, kids. All our assumptions. Yeah.
I'll tell you two things about that. Two things that are critical. One is that, again, we have the advantage of being there before the fire even gets there.
Yeah.
And that we know the properties, characteristics, and mainly the vegetation mapping and the topography and the typical wind conditions of that area of the customer. We know it better than everyone. So we can prepare. Preparing is key. That's one. The second thing is the fact that we protect against these embers, because these embers, as I said, I think earlier,
that's remote
destruction. And maybe a double click on that very interesting thing that we saw in the LA fires. Imagine a community that is bordered by the wildland, by the what we call the wildland interface. What happened in these fires is that embers flew in from the wildland. They kind of landed on the roofs of the first line of houses. These houses were burned, and when a house burns down, it has pieces of wood or pieces of plastic that are caught on fire and then fly, because it's windy, towards the belly of the neighborhood, and then they do kind of a contagious.
It's like a destructive reinforcing that.
A domino effect, because each house causes destruction on the second rows and second row for the third row, and then goes on and on inside. If these houses, the first line of houses, were pre-coated by a FireDome, by the retardant that we deployed, then a lot of this domino effect would have been prevented. Meaning, a lot of these houses wouldn't have been caught on fire and therefore wouldn't have released new embers towards inside of the neighborhood. So I think this is something that is very, it's the top priority for us to excel in these kind of methodology. And there we can really mitigate the destruction percentage. Again, not to say a specific number, but very, very high, dozens of percents, less risky. And again, it depends on the complexity of the property, of the terrain. There are a lot of factors that we need to take into consideration, but essentially the combination of creating these layers and the ability to react in real time very accurately and very fast with the firepower and with the detection, I think this helps us increase the chances dramatically that there'll be either hopefully no destruction, but if not, minimal destruction.
Let me ask you a question. So, like the Pasadena fires, do you have
Palisades fire?
Palisade fires. Like, do you have me as a just a normal person? I was horrified. It looked like it looked horrible. But it's something in the business. It's like, do you have any special insights into that? Like knowing all the things that that's looking at it kind of in retrospect
on the fires and on what they should have done maybe differently.
Except buy FireDome and install it in the whole region, right? Like, of course.
Let's start with a few. I think first we have to address the firefighters. They did an incredible job in these fires. Incredible job. We heard from a lot of chiefs that they call these fires biblical scale fires, meaning fires that they haven't seen before. No one has seen before, because of the wind, because of the the wind caused the fire to be very, very fast. The wind caused a lot of ember showers to emerge and go fast towards the communities. It's something that they haven't seen before. And because they haven't seen before, they didn't have enough resources to handle this magnitude of fires in different places. The fact that we had fires that came from the wildland to the communities, the fire front, and the fact that they had to fight. So they had to fight these fires, the fire front, which is kind of what we imagine, right? When we imagine wildfires, or firefighters, they go to the forest or the interface and then they try to suppress or deviate the fires. But they also had a lot of fires inside the neighborhood. So they had to split the firefighters between the fire and the neighborhood to make sure that no houses or domino effect can't continue. And that made them, I'm not saying lose both battles, but it's important to say that all of the neighboring counties and even some states sent more power, more firefighters to the fires, and it was too much of a fire. It was also, a lot of different things that kind of went wrong at the same time every year and easily lower. We have to be very proactive here. I think another insight is the one that we discussed before. It happened in other fires, but there it was very, very strong. And if we can protect the first rows of houses, it's a major difference. It can make a huge difference in how the fires propagate. Having a system that is already there in the backyard, in the houses, in the communities, in the businesses that can detect and react fast, that can save a lot of damage and can buy the firefighters a lot of precious time. Tell you another story that it's connected to the firefighters and FireDome. In some conversation that we had very early on, the firefighters asked for us, once they understand the concept and the technology, they asked for us to develop a mobile version for them. The mobile version can enable them, to get faster to the location of a fire.
And deploy
the protection very fast, have a longer reach to the fire because, now they have the hoses are limited in the distance. Let's say 100 feet, 200 feet, we can get to hundreds of feet with these capsules. So they can station themselves a bit far and then launch toward the fire.
Dramatic effect.
No, it's not working. Let's hope it's okay. Anyway, and another thing is something that is very important that communities are doing and firefighters doing is called prescribed burns, prescribed fires. It's doing intentional fires to thin out the to create fire lines. So a lot of times, because there could be strong winds when the prescribed fires happen, and then embers start to generate from these fires, sometimes the firefighters remain unprotected from these embers. Mm-hmm. Having a FireDome system there to kind of safeguard and protect the firefighters when they burn is also something that they saw very appealing in a.
So I understand, they found it appealing and interesting, but practically after the fires, did that affect your business?
Yeah, we had dozens of inbound calls and approaches from the website. We spoke with dozens of people who, either evacuated or lost their homes. It was about 1.5 years ago, so we didn't have the system ready yet. It was kind of the beginning of the development. But we were staying in touch with them. We're talking with them. We're engaging with them as we approach manufacturing and initial installations. And obviously, they will be receiving systems next year or later on. They are the first ones who understand the meaning and the potential influence of such a system on their
What do you see the development of the company in the next few years?
Awesome. So I think that on the business side, what we want to do for now, we're focusing on what we call the early adopters, right? The vineyards, the wineries, the HOAs. Later on, to get much broader distribution, we want to speak with governments, want to engage with governments, whether it's counties, municipalities, state, federal, maybe farther down the road, because they can see a very broader picture of let's say a county. Where are the weaker points? Which communities should we put FireDomes in? This is something strategic for the company to get higher distribution, to get key relationships that will help us expand and get more customers in the future. I think this is very important. That's one avenue. The second avenue is the insurance avenue, which is, again, it's rather slow. It's a rather conservative ecosystem, but we see a lot of insurance carriers more open to new technologies, adopting technologies that will help them reduce the risk and also help them get more data. And we do both. Having the system on a customer that is insured by X carrier will provide them much, much stronger protection from wildfires. I mean, they don't have any, so this is a huge step forward. And two, the data that they need, the insurance companies need to validate the fact that there's a protection active on site and the fact that the customer is doing active measures to protect himself and reduce the risk. So it's huge for the insurance companies. And we're working with several insurance companies kind of as design partners to understand from them what will help them help their customers actually get relief to their customers or insure specific areas that are not insured. So this is very, very interesting and important avenue that we're building on. And I think that the last thing is more on the product side is to start thinking about the mobile version. What will be its characteristics? How fast will we be able to deploy? What range? What pace? To start creating the relationships with the people at the fire departments that are responsible for technologies and procurement, and not only with the fire chiefs that were they're not our customers. They're again advocates and champions, and they're partners along the way. But again, we're not selling to them currently. So trying to identify how the selling cycle, works with fire departments, that's also, and how to tailor the product for their needs. That's a very interesting and fascinating process that we're looking ahead to. Geography is expanding in the US to other states, to Canada, to Australia. Every week, we have someone from Brazil, from Argentina, this morning from Uruguay, from Chile, Australia that want to work with us as distributors. And we're politely saying we're focusing on a specific area now. We're going to talk with you guys in a few years once we're ready. Yeah. And again, the vision is to have the FireDomes, the FireDome factory, the production factory in every continent, have launchers everywhere. Build a strong, successful, robust business that can really make an impact.
Amazing. And look, I'm excited because I'm like, again, not you, but I'm excited for you and Adi, because I remember like the presentation, and it's like now you're nearing deployment. It's like, yeah, you're smiling. It's like that. It's a big thing. It's very, very exciting.
One of the first versions of the presentation, and
I guess.
Remember, I even have your insights written on our drive, and we go back to these conversations because appreciate that
amazing
insights, and you have a part in FireDome also, Haggai.
What?
You have a part in FireDome also.
I'm willing to take any credit for other people's work. It's okay.
It's our honor and our pleasure.
So people that want to find you, Gadi, and learn more, where can they find you?
So we have the website, www.fire-dome.com. You can email me, gadib@fire-dome.com. You can talk. LinkedIn. I'm very active in LinkedIn. It's a very powerful tool to do discovery. Very powerful. A lot of people fire chiefs have LinkedIn. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
They communicate. Yeah. So that's where
amazing.
You can find. Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Haggai.
May the internal fire keep burning and the outside fire be protected by FireDome.
Yeah, for sure.
Best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. Cheers.
It's a wrap. This Haggai podcast episode ends here, but you don't. Now, is it crazy to think that you know somebody who'd love this episode? Share it with them, and they'll love you for it.